Hey guys, yeah, let me see what's my, oh, it's over here. Um, yeah, you can tell I'm a little tired, so, I want to talk about this real quickly, because just like Deluxe Man said in his video, and I'm going to say here as well, um, I just found out something that I know a lot of fans are going to speculate, just like they did last year, on whether or not it's true. And that is the fact that AJ Lee has retired from WWE. And to to hear this is kind of a surprise because AJ had just come back to to be involved with a feud with the Bellas and team with Paige. And I can understand maybe it was her way of putting Paige over, and that's great. Um, but a lot of people have their reasoning as to why AJ retired, and there's numerous reasons why she may have, hung it up. Some people feel as though maybe it was and that was my dog. Some look at it as the possibility of the conflict between her husband CM Punk, Phil Brooks, and the WWE. There being such tension there, and when you think about it, AJ Lee, in a sense, was kind of like the CM Punk of the Divas division. And like CM Punk, you could tell on screen and maybe even off that she wanted the division to be more than just, pretty girls and models and all that. She wanted it to be back to that old school style of women's wrestling, to where you went out, had your match, put on a good match, and when you were done, you shook hands or you left. That was it. Just go out there, do your job, and that's it. Put on a good match, and that's it. And I'm sure she probably felt a little restricted. True, she was Vince McMahon's favorite. In fact, she was the only diva. I think the Bellas did this best in their little WrestleMania interview, hyping their match with her, again, hyping their tag match against her and Paige, that AJ was the only one given a voice. And I think, again, that's all due to the fact that Vince McMahon liked her. And AJ was, like I said, sort of like the CM Punk of WWE. She would come out there and tell it like it is. We all recall when Punk dropped that bombshell on the entire WWE. Nobody saw it coming. No one thought, oh, Punk would say something like that, but yet he did. He said something like that. He came out and said, look, I don't care. He basically came out and said it like it is. He said, look, I'm the only one that goes out there and busts my butt every night. I'm the only real wrestler, out there. I'm not, some guy that's just, here to, be this or be that, And I think that was a lot of, and a lot of people would look at someone like AJ and be like, she's kind of like the CM Punk of the WWE, of the Divas division. She's very outspoken. She's not a sports entertainer girl. She's more like, hey, I'm this, I'm that. I'm a wrestler first and foremost, and obviously that didn't sit well with people because, like I said, she just told it like it is. She didn't back up from saying how she felt or anything. She just said it like it is. And, again, I could kind of say that perhaps there was that tension between her, between WWE and Punk that made her leave. You know, when you take a look at her when she was on the shelf with an injury, who was she always around? She was always around Punk. She was always around him, and anytime he would say something bad, maybe about WWE, she was there. They would show a picture of her, and you know, again, I'm not saying that. And again, I'm not saying that, that was the reason. People might say it was the reason. We can't really be sure if it was. I can't be sure that it was. So, I can't be sure that it was. But to me, though, hearing about AJ retiring is a surprise. I mean, I don't think any of us saw that coming. Like none of us saw Punk retiring coming. None of us saw that coming. And I think it was, like I said, just a huge surprise for a lot of us. Because a lot of people would consider her to be the CM Punk of the Divas division. Now again, like I mentioned earlier, I'm sure a lot of people will speculate and say, "Oh well, she's not really retiring. It's a storyline. It's gonna be a way to let her heal up from any real injuries she has, and she's gonna come back and she's gonna become champion again." And again, we don't really know the specifications of what's going on, of how this happened. We don't know if it's true or not. Let's not forget last year we speculated that Punk was pulling our leg. We speculated that Punk and WWE were just pulling the wool over our eyes, so that when the time was right, they would come back and they would show us that, hey, we're smarter than you. We caught you by surprise. Nah, 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 nah. And there's a lot of us that might feel that way. A lot of us might react that way. But to me, it's, how do I put this? To me, I've learned my lesson. I mean, I look at it this way: we won't really know what's going on until it happens. And when it happens, when we get confirmation, is whether or not this is storyline or this is real, and it looks like it's going to be real. Then all we can do is just wait. I know, like I said, a lot of people are going to speculate. But you know what? Let's take a look at what happened with Punk last year. We thought they were pulling our leg. Look what's going on now. Look where Punk's at now. How do we know AJ's not doing what AJ's doing is not real? A lot of people might say, well, she's young. She has a lot of years left. And yes, she does. Some people might say, well, she's probably just doing this because she wants to go to Ring of Honor, or she wants to go to Shimmer, or she wants to go to TNA and have real competition. You can think that all you like. But we won't really know the truth until AJ comes out and says it herself. We won't know the truth until WWE acknowledges it, not just on .com, but maybe on screen, and wishes her the best of luck. Now, if you have the Bellas, let's say you have the Bellas come out and take credit for forcing AJ Lee out of the WWE and doing this and that. Yeah, you might speculate and say it's storyline, and saying if she was to ever come back, we'd throw her out again. And you got to look at it this way from AJ's standpoint. Not only if you want to look at it as being the real deal, which I have no doubt it is, because I've learned my lesson from last year. But if you want to look at it from AJ's perspective, like I said, she had the conflict between her and her husband and the WWE that she was in the middle of. But then you take a look at the fact that every diva on that roster with her as the exception. Every diva was either a part of Total Divas, wanted to be or was being considered for Total Divas, or was and was booted off Total Divas. And AJ, when you look at it like that, was like the outcast looking, was basically on the outside looking in. She was the outcast. It's like, here she was, the only real diva wrestler on the roster that wanted nothing to do with Total Divas. She basically, like I said, came out and said it herself in that pipe bombshell she did last year or a year or so ago. She wants nothing to do with it. I'm sure if she comes out and does an RF video shoot, or she does a podcast on Cole Cabana's podcast, Art of Wrestling, and she mentions Total Divas, or the question is asked her thoughts on Total Divas, if somebody asks her that question, either it's the RF video shoot series or the Art of Wrestling podcast, if Colt asks her that, asks her that question, I wouldn't be surprised if AJ's answer is she was never a fan of Total Divas. I wouldn't be surprised if AJ's answer is, look, I think Total Divas drug the Divas division down. It didn't help it, it drug it down. So, like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if that's her answer. I wouldn't. But to me, I'm leaning towards the fact that this is real, and that we'll find out more in the future from AJ herself. And if WWE is pulling our leg, if AJ's in on it, and they're pulling our leg, and it's all about some big ruse and big storyline they're planning for the future, then hey, kudos to them. But I don't really think it is, and after last year, I think we gotta let the realism of what's going on set in first before we set in first and accept that before we can even think or contemplate whether or not it's whether or not it might be something else. But I'm definitely leaning towards it being real. And again, like I said, I know there's going to be people that are going to say, yeah, they want you to think that, but it's going to be something else. Guys, remember last year, okay, with CM Punk? We thought the same thing too. Look what happened. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's let time play a factor here and see what happens. If AJ's music hits and she comes out on Raw or the pay-per-view, then yeah, WWE pulled our legs, they got us. And AJ was in on it, they got us, whoopee. But we'll just have to wait and see. So, you guys let me know what you think on it, but if it is the end for AJ, I do say thank you, AJ. You are definitely the only real anti-diva out there on and off screen that we could all relate to, so, and be fans of. So, thank you, and that's all I'm going to say, folks. Let me know what you guys think on AJ Lee retiring from WWE, and do you think it's real, or do you think WWE and AJ are pulling our leg? Let us know down below. Let me know down below. Talk to y'all later.